Welcome to this episode of our program Daily Debate. I am Mona Muselhi, sitting here on behalf of my colleague Ahmed Neder, and we'll be discussing tonight the latest or the meeting of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi with the Qatari Emir, who was in Egypt for 2 official days on his first visit since Egypt and Qatar resumed diplomatic relations last year. During the meeting, the two leaders discussed a number of regional and international issues of mutual concerns, and they agreed on boosting bilateral relations on different spheres on the regional and international fronts. They also agreed to enhance bilateral cooperation in many fields, or in various fields, particularly the economic one. And definitely that is the first time the two leaders meet in 7 years. We'll be speaking about that in our episode tonight. Before we delve into our discussion, let me first have a quick look on the top stories of the day. And President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received on Sunday United Arab Emirates Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Foreign Minister Sameh Shukriya, and the Executive Director of Abu Dhabi Holding Company, as well as the UAE's ambassador in Egypt, attended the meeting. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Sam Radi said that the President welcomed the United Arab Emirates top diplomat and conveyed greetings to President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. During the meeting, the President highlighted the importance of historical ties between the two sides since late Sheikh Zayed Al Nahyan's era. The head of state reiterated that the United Arab Emirates' supportive stances at crucial historical times are appreciated. On his part, Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed said he was honored to meet President Sisi and delivered his greeting on behalf of President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. Bin Zayed reiterated that the United Arab Emirates is keen to strengthen strategic ties with Egypt to achieve the common interests of both sides and boost the stability and security of the region. Bilateral ties also topped the agenda of the talks, especially expanding United Arab Emirates investments in the fields of energy, transportation, ports and tourism. Moving on to our next top story of the day, and Judge Mohammed Aid Mohammed Mahgoub took the oath as head of the Court of Cassation before President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Sunday. Councillor Adel Fahim Mohammed Azab was also sworn in as head of the State Council, and Councillor Mohammed Bakr as head of the Egyptian State Lawsuits Authority. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Sam Radi stressed the importance of the role of the Court of Cassation, the State Council and the State Lawsuits Authority in achieving justice and preserving the rights of citizens and the interests of the nation. President Sisi also honored former head of the Court of Cassation, Judge Abdullah Omar, with the first degree certificate of merit. Councillor Mohammed Mahmoud Hussein, former State Council, head of the former State Council head, and Councillor Hussein Mustafa Fathi, former head of State Lawsuits Authority, also received the first degree certificate of merit. Radi added that the President expressed appreciation for the councillor and their roles in implementing law and protecting justice. Right, and back to our topic of the day, and before we delve into our discussion, let's first have this quick report. And Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad concludes 1.5 or 2 days successful visit to Egypt as he met with the President, and more in the following report.
Qatar's Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani said on Saturday that he discussed with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in Cairo means of enhancing bilateral relations in all fields. In a tweet, the Qatari Emir said that he and President Sisi discussed enhancing and activating joint Arab work in a way that meets the aspirations of the Arab peoples in development and stability and supports security of the region and the world. President Sisi bid farewell to the Qatari Emir, who paid Egypt an official 2-day visit for the first time in 7 years after holding bilateral discussions at Al Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace in Cairo. This is the first visit by the Emir to Egypt since the two countries agreed on resuming bilateral relations in January last year after more than 3 years of diplomatic rift. In June last year, President Sisi sent an invitation to the Emir to visit Egypt at the earliest opportunity. In February, both leaders met on the sidelines of the opening ceremony of the 24th Winter Olympics in Beijing. They also met in August 2021 for the first time in more than 4 years on the sidelines of the Baghdad Cooperation and Partnership Conference. The meeting comes few days after Egyptian Minister of Finance Mohammed Mait and his Qatari counterpart Ali bin Ahmed Al Kuwari signed a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) on the sidelines of the Qatar Economic Forum to foster joint cooperation. The MOU seeks to coordinate financial visions, positions and policies at the bilateral level and in international forums. It is also meant to exchange expertise in the fields of taxation, customs and financial policies in a way that contributes to achieving economic and development goals.
Welcome back, and let me welcome our guest tonight, Dr. Sherif Amer, Professor of International Relations. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So this is the first visit of Qatari Emir Tamim bin Hamad, rather not the first visit, but his first meeting with the president in years, and he described the visit as successful and stressed his keenness on boosting economic ties. How do you view this visit by the Qatari Emir to Egypt and its significance at this very particular time?
Well, let's be, in today's segment, I'll be very frank and I will detail what took place over the last, let's say, 11 years between Egypt and
No,
Qatar.
we just need yesterday and the recent period.
Of course, but we have to be very cautious about diplomacy, because diplomacy has no one line. I will reiterate again the words of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi back in 2013. He was still a Minister of Defense, and he said that Egypt will never forget the countries who stood with Egypt and the countries who stood against Egypt. And let's be frank, the relations were very, very tense between Egypt and Qatar. They stood with hostile positions in their media and their financial powers against Egypt. But I think that Egypt had a task. It was an example given to the whole Middle East that we choose democracy as a path. And many didn't like the choice of the Egyptian people. We were attacked by the media outside Egypt, and also foreign forces tried to destabilize Egypt. We kept on one line, and this was the unity between the president and the people. And what we're seeing today is everyone bowing down to Egypt's choice. We chose our path in 2013, and we chose President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi as a leader. Whether they like it or not, this is our country, and we are always open to negotiations, to discussions. We're a country of peace. We're a country of sovereignty also. Today, this visit is a clear answer to all the efforts that were made since 2011, saying that you cannot do it. We said we did it. And now, when the Emir of Qatar is here, he's giving now a clear answer. Egypt's sovereignty has won, and we have to accept it. We have to be respectful to the people of Egypt and the leadership of Egypt. So this visit is just the fruit of our struggle, the answer to all those who are trying to tell us that we will fail. This is the answer. He's here in Cairo, greeted by the president, and we're saying this is the new Egypt. You have to accept it.
Yes. This is very true. This is very true. The visit itself and how significant it is, particularly at this, or the world and regional challenges that are occurring.
I think that the world is changing, of course, with what we're witnessing now. I cannot say we were all in this region prepared, but I'm sorry to say the survival is for the fittest. And fortunately, we are fit enough to survive. That's why they're now talking to us. The EU, who stood against Egypt in 2013, now they're talking to us and asking us for the gas. And to
actually giving Europe its lifeline.
Of course.
Please.
And now, same thing with Qatar. And now I think that the Turkish regime is trying to be nice in a way or another in its rhetoric and way of talking to Egypt. So I think that we have put now a clear sign. This is Egypt that you have to respect. This was the promise given by President Sisi in 2013, that everyone would come to Egypt to acknowledge that we are the citadel of peace and also of struggle against the evil. He used to say the people of evil means the terrorist forces, the dark forces trying to destabilize the region. So we are fit enough to stand now. We are committed to our economic development and to our development of military force also.
Right.
So that's why we are now the hub of all these meetings here in Egypt.
Sheikh Tamim, the Qatari Emir, stressed that he wanted to make use of the vast opportunities available in Egypt. So, how do you view the areas of cooperation between Egypt and Qatar at this upcoming stage, putting into consideration that the President has said we don't need loans, we need investments?
I think that that's what I'm saying, that they have to understand the new Egypt, the new republic. It's not a slogan, it's reality, and they have to accept it. It's not a slogan, it's new Egypt now. And the time that we were asking for money for just spending it on some debt, we're not doing that anymore. We're asking, if we ask for money, we ask for development and cooperation. It means that you come and invest with your money. The example, our brothers in the Emirates, they're not just wasting money like that. They come, they know that Egypt is a secure country. They know that their money are put in a place, which is safe and guaranteed and protected. So I think that the Emir of Qatar has to understand this also, that if they want to really show their good intentions, is with deeds, not with words. And we said it to the Turks also. We want to see deeds. And this is how President...
Now, put aside the Turkish issue, because we are negotiating.
I'm giving
we are still in negotiations.
Both of them were parallel in their way of thinking towards Egypt. President Sisi used to say that I want work on the ground. And this is how he works also in diplomacy. He wants real results. So if they want bilateral relations in the economic field, they're welcomed with investment. They're welcome to build factories, to have their companies here as they're doing it in Europe, so they can do it here in Egypt.
So from your point of view, what could be opportunities of cooperation between Qatar and Egypt? Because we're also speaking at a very delicate time. We're speaking here about a time when the energy sector is in dire need for lots and lots of cooperation. And we're speaking here about lots and lots of infrastructure built by Egypt during the past period in order to prepare Egypt, for an instant, to be a regional or an energy hub. So what are exactly the areas or the opportunities of cooperation existing between Qatar and Egypt?
Well, I'll be frank also. We have lots of friends. We have lots of allies. And since 2013, we have managed to work with several countries. So the Qataris, of course, they are welcome to come to invest. But I think that the main investment that we're doing now is with our partners in Europe and the other Gulf states. So I think it's up to the Egyptian leadership to choose in which domain, because also let's say that the national security of Egypt is also a red line, and the decision to welcome the Qatari in any sector would be studied very, very carefully under the microscope.
Last week and before the arrival of the Qatari Emir, Minister of Finance Ma'it and his Qatari counterpart agreed in Doha to reactivate the Qatari-Egyptian Business Council. How significant is that business council, and I mean here, what could it bring about of cooperative business?
There is no clear answer about that, because we all know that the history, the past years were really tense. So I don't know exactly what we're going to do about this business council. Is it going to be something effective or just a figure? It's up to the Qataris to choose. They have to say, well, we're going to tell our businessmen to come to Egypt and invest. We will be welcome. We'll welcome everyone. So it's up to also the Qataris to decide which way they will choose and what steps they will take.
Indeed. But I guess it's also up to Egypt, because we're speaking about priorities.
Of course. This is
what I mean here is what are the opportunities Egypt is putting before the Qataris or any of our Gulf partners. I mean, here we're speaking about, Egypt has been speaking about the importance of agriculture because of the food chain and food security. We've been speaking about energy because it is right now the reason for all existing crises. We're also speaking about the importance of trade exchange. We were also speaking about investments in several fields that would really boost relations in a way or another. So how do you view the opportunities Egypt is putting before the Qataris?
Well, as I said, it could be in the global relations with the Gulf states in a whole. We're working with the Saudis, with the Emiratis, and the president is going to also to visit the Sultanate of Oman. So I think,
yes, indeed.
Yeah, so I think that we are working with all the Gulf Council and with all the Gulf states. The Qataris, there was this boycott made by all the nations of the Gulf states. So I think that now they will ask Egypt if they can invest in which sector. We will decide according to our economic needs. We will decide when and how. And I repeat, this is, especially with the Qataris, it's a matter of national security. And I think this file is in the hands of the president himself to decide what to do about it, because and we have to respect respect this. This is the leader of this country, and he's the one who would take the decision about it. About all the other countries, we all know we have friendly relations with the Russians, with the Americans, with the Europeans, with the Gulf states, so that we can talk hours about the cooperation. But let's be frank about the Qataris. The president will take the decisions how and when to work with them.
Before we continue on with our discussion, let me first take this second report, and we'll continue our discussion after this report.
Egypt and Qatar signed a Memorandum of Understanding MOU earlier last week in Doha on financial policy coordination between their finance ministers on the sidelines of the Qatar Economic Forum. Minister of Finance Mohammed Maït and his Qatari counterpart Ali bin Ahmed Al Qawari signed the MOU that is meant to foster cooperation and coordinate financial visions, positions and policies at the bilateral and international levels. The MOU also aims to exchange expertise in the fields of taxation, customs and financial policies. According to the Finance Ministry, the MOU paves the way for reaching an agreement on preventing double taxation between the two sides with a view to stimulating joint investments. The two ministers praised the tangible progress made in the course of bilateral relations. The MOU is the latest episode of cooperation between Egypt and Qatar following the restoration in January 2021 of diplomatic, economic and travel ties after a 4-year hiatus. Egypt and Qatar have worked on strengthening their relations and reaching common ground on regional issues since Egypt and the Gulf Cooperation Council (GCC) signed the Al-Ula Declaration with Qatar in January 2021, ending years of a diplomatic rift. In the wake of the agreement, Egypt and Qatar held rounds of talks to develop relations, eventually forming the Egyptian-Qatari Joint Committee to foster and strengthen these ties.
back, and also on the sidelines of the Qatari Economic Forum that was held last week. The Egyptian Minister of Industry and Trade, Naveen Gema, said she agreed with her Qatari counterpart on reactivating the Egyptian Qatari Business Council and pointed out to industrial partnership between 4,500 Egyptian and Qatari companies. And there was this important agreement for $5 billion in Qatari investments in Egypt during a visit by the Qatari Minister of Foreign Affairs and Deputy Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani to the Egyptian to Cairo. Returning back to you here, Dr. Sherif, and we were speaking about relations. Definitely a number of issues stopped the agenda of the talks between President Sisi and the Qatari Emir. How do you view the topics that were raised on the agenda, and how important were those topics to be discussed at this very particular time? And we're speaking here that Sheikh Tamim, or the Qatari Emir, is not the first Arab or Gulf even leader to visit Egypt. It came after this important visit by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and another one by the Bahraini king and by the Bahraini and the Jordanian royals. So first, let me ask you about the issues that were topping the agenda of the talks.
Well, the national security of the Arab world, this is an important topic now. I think that, as you said, the visit of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia and King of Jordan, King Abdullah II, and the King of Bahrain to Egypt. We have seen all these visits to Egypt, and President Sisi also will be visiting Oman, Sultanate of Oman. I think that the Arab countries are trying now to coordinate between them before the summit with the U.S. President Joe Biden.
The GCC summit.
Yes.
In which the U.S. President will be participating, yes.
Of course. And I think it's time to coordinate. I think that the fact, it's a positive sign that the Qataris decided to work with Egypt, not separately. And I think that one of the main topics is Iran. And we all know that Qatar has very developed relations with the Iranian regime. So I think that Egypt could transfer some messages through Qatar that we would like to tell the Iranians that the Arab world is united. The Arab world is not happy to see that there is some Iranian involvement in some countries in the region and destabilizing security. So this is a way of diplomacy. We can transfer these messages also to the Iranians. And it's also a message to the American administration that, when there is a time to organize the Arab camp on the military, diplomatic, and energy files, well, we are capable of uniting our forces and talk and organize our rhetoric. So I mean, this is the main topic. And we know that Qatar now understands the weight of Egypt in this region. It's unavoidable to work in this region without consulting Cairo, without asking the visionary position of President Sisi. And we all know that it is a reality that Egypt is capable of changing the whole situation by its power, by its diplomacy, and it's time to work together. So, I mean, I think that the main topic was the energy and the security of the Arab world.
Here, Sheikh Tamim has widely praised Egypt's policies under President Sisi at all internal, regional and domestic levels. And of course that was when he was here in Egypt. What could be the shared interests, the real shared interests between Egypt and Doha at this very particular time we're speaking about? And why it is important?
Well, I think that our friends there in Qatar, I think that they discovered that we are a national, or let's say energy power in the region was gas. And we are more geographically a more important candidate than Qatar to Europe, because we are closer to Europe than Qatar, so we can supply the gas. So I think that they understood now that they have a concurrent, they have competition, and was not a tiny country. No, it was Egypt. So I think that they understood now that their economy could be, let's not say harmed, but they could come second after Egypt in this region if we will talk now about gas and about energy. So they understand now that we have to take care of our words and our deeds when we talk with Egypt, and if not, we will lose a lot. I think this is what's going in their mind. And this is the decision makers inside Doha are talking about. It's time to talk with Egypt, because now we had the force of gas. Egypt now is the leading force now. Well, this is how diplomacy works. What goes around turns around. They were in the past the gas force. Now today we are the gas force. They have to respect that, and they have to talk to us here in Cairo.
I guess that there are lots and lots of shared interests for this meeting, particularly as we said, there are lots and lots of common files that we are sharing together. Part of them was one the President was keen to discuss, which is the Palestinian cause and enhancing the efforts of both countries to push for a restart of the Palestinian-Israeli peace talks. So this, I guess, is a common interest, right?
It's a common interest, and I think that Egypt's policy towards the Palestinian issue is to work with all parties. We work with the Palestinian Authority, and also we worked with the Hamas government in Gaza. I think that we wanted to tell the Qataris also that they have to work with President Mahmoud Abbas, not only with Hamas, as they used to do in the past. And I think that the Qataris have good relations with the Israelis, so they can also be a mediator helping us, because we're not alienating anyone. We're telling all their countries, whoever can help in finding a solution, and President Sisi said it several times, whoever can help in finding a solution in this conflict is welcomed. So I think that now they could have pressure, or they have influence on Hamas, because they finance Hamas. We all know it, the Qataris. So it could be a way of telling them, well, you could tell your friends in Gaza to work with the Palestinian Authority to the national security of the Palestinian cause.
Yes. Of course, the Palestinian cause is much of concern to the whole world, and would be part and parcel of the upcoming GCC summit. And that here the Emir expressed appreciation for Egypt's pivotal role in serving the Arab issues and efforts to enhance Arab solidarity at all levels. In fact, Egypt is doing that. The Emir himself has testified about Egypt's efforts, relentless efforts of doing that all the time. And that makes us put a spotlight on the upcoming GCC summit, because that would also discuss a range and a host of issues of concerns to the Arab world. From your point of view, what is, or how do you view the importance of this upcoming summit? This summit, of course, gather together the Gulf states in large, plus Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq.
I think that the Americans, and I said this when Joe Biden was elected and the new administration was in place in Washington. I said that this precise administration has a lack of vision concerning the Middle East. They don't know how to deal with several issues. And I think now that the confrontation that it's taking place between NATO and Russia, I think now that the Americans are trying to gather whatever they could and whoever could be in their camp to face Russia. And I think that Joe Biden, the US president, wants to gather all the leaders of this region, especially Egypt also, to try to influence their decision about Russia. Let's say it clear that the Arab world, yes, it has the oil, yes, it has the gas fields, yes, it has the geographical importance, but they also now, several countries, including Egypt, of course, have also a loud voice about their own security and sovereignty. No one will influence our decisions. And we all witnessed that President Sisi said it, and he said it when the Polish president came to Egypt. We want to see negotiations and peace. We would not side against Russia in any ways. So I think that this visit is very important for President Joe Biden to hear by himself the point of views of the Arab world, to hear our view that the times have changed. Of course, the US is superpower, but also there is regional powers, and this is in geopolitics very known. Regional powers, whether it's Egypt, Turkey, even Iraq with its resources, these powers and the Gulf states have a weight and have calculations. And it's not because we are the allies of the US we would be against Russia. We have a position, our national interest. We will tell also the US president that the Arab world is not happy about what is going on in the negotiations with Iran, and that the US is willing to accept the nuclear program or ease the nuclear program for Iran. This is unacceptable, so they have to hear it by themselves. Concerning the Palestinian issue, well, they have seen that the Gulf states have signed peace with Israel because they are willing to work for a peaceful solution. So the card of Iran is the remaining card, and I think that it shouldn't be used to blackmail the Arab world. If you would not side with us against Russia, there will be always the threat of Iran. No. The Arab world now has strong armies, strong economies. They are united. And I think that many of the Arab leaders in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the Emirates will tell President Joe Biden, in all our respects, we would not put aside our relations with Russia because it's a major partner for us, economically, diplomatically, militarily.
The summit, we're not sure exactly whether the U.S. is attending for seeing how the Arab region is taking sides, but rather many of the points you raised are supposed to be discussed, or reports said that they are to be discussed, including definitely Iran, and Iran highly top the agenda of the talks. Also the issue of Russia, Ukraine, and its implication on the world, and how we should be averting the repercussions, because we're not taking sides, but indeed the repercussions are really reflecting on us, on the region, and we are highly paying the price of a war that we have nothing to do with. This is another issue. A third one would be reports about a kind of new alliance. What the reports from Jordan were said by the Jordanian king, that would also be raised. I guess that there are a very important issue, and this is why I guess that the Arab leaders had to meet and discuss before such an important meeting. From your point of view, I'm not speaking definitely about the raised topics in particular, but how important is it for Arab unity and integration in face of all the global crises? How important is it to unite stances and position towards one definite answer, or a united position in face of any kind of upcoming unclear demands?
Well, speaking about the statement of King Abdullah II of Jordan, he said that there is an Arab NATO. Well, I think that back in 2013, President Sisi was the first one who said that we need an Arab force.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
He's the first one who said it. But, and I underline the word but, President Sisi, when he said it in order that the Arab world would have its own decision. We could coordinate with all the countries, but the decision and the sovereignty of these forces belongs to us.
To the Arabs.
Of course.
And Arabs.
Of course.
Arabs within.
Of course.
Yes.
So I think that meeting or having maneuvers of military maneuvers with our friends in the United States or European friends, that does not mean that we are allied to a military alliance, because the next day we will have also military maneuvers with our friends in China and in Russia. So this is how it works.
I don't believe that the Jordanian king really meant, but he said something like...
He was giving an
NATO.
example. He was giving an example.
Yes.
Yes. He was trying to give an example. But I think that that's why we have to make it very clear that, of course, we would like to have a united force. We all know that the Arab countries, and especially the Gulf countries, are really worried about their security concerning Iran. And they want to show Iran that we are united. We're not vulnerable. We all know that the Iranians use their boats to destabilize the Hormuz Strait, and they try to kidnap and hijack several tankers, old tankers. Well, we are telling the West, and we are telling Iran that you have to have in your calculations this part of the world, which is the Arab world. Of course, when we will take in consideration the military force of the Arab world, that means the top gear, the first on the level is Egypt. We have our superb navy, our very well classified.
But we're not speaking militarily now of, but definitely Egypt can defend itself very well. Very well.
And our brothers.
And our brothers,
and
definitely.
Our brothers.
Definitely. It
this
has
is
been
the main
said
message.
several times. It
Yes.
was, and it is, and it will always be the message here. What should we be expecting from the Egyptian-Qatari relations, just to end up this episode at this upcoming stage?
A new change in Qatar's foreign policy towards Egypt and towards many issues. I think that the step they made by coming to Egypt and congratulating President Sisi for the revolution of 2013 also, because it's next Thursday. So I think this is great for us. It's an acknowledgement of our democratic choice. So I think that let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. This is how politics works and diplomacy works. Let's wait and see. But I hope they will change their way, because we showed that we won't change our way.
As long as we both have mutual respect for our both
yes.
For our bilateral interests, I guess it will work. Right?
I hope so.
Dr. Sherif Amer, Professor of International Relations, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. And dear viewers, many thanks for watching. Tomorrow will be another important debate with another colleague. Good night.